Hi, welcome to Justin's Morning Coffee. Okay, so in continuing our discussion on the 7 basic plots, we're up to part 3 of Voyage and Return. You should go back and watch part 1 and part 2 if you want to continue along with this. We're working our way up the mountain here. I don't want to review this too much, but we're on the Voyage and Return plot, and we went through the anticipation stage, the first video, dream stage, the second video. Now we're into the frustration stage. So what are the characteristics of the Voyage and Return plot in Act 3, basically there? All right, so in the frustration stage, given the movies that we've been discussing so far, the main thing now for this protagonist is to find out who is an enemy and who is an ally in this underworld that they've gone down into. So you can kind of think of it this way. We talked a little bit about this world tree and the idea of going through a rabbit hole or something at the base, the roots of the tree, and going down into the root structure of reality here. And down here, what you have is your multiplicity. So you can kind of think of it like a seed. Alice, Andy Dufresne, Neo, Marty McFly, they're going down into this underworld, and they're starting to now sprout some roots here. And what are the dangers of being down in that world of multiplicity? So that's what I want to talk about next. Okay, so essentially you can think of these characters now. You can think of the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion without a heart and the talking beavers. The parents, oftentimes it's the parents that are acting immature, or they're possessed with immaturity, animality. Little characters here that you can think of as having been broken down into smaller identities. They're like the dust. So really, if you think about this, it all goes back to the book of Genesis, and we're going to talk a little bit about this a little bit more later on, where the line is, "From dust you came, and to dust you shall return." So when a character goes into the underworld, they're going into the world of dust, you might say. And so you're going to find smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller constituent parts, smaller identities, smaller names, forgetfulness, all of the things that have to do with breaking down a body, decomposition of a body into the smaller pieces. That's what you're going to find down there. So what you have now are these characters that constitute the multiplicity, and they're going to need to join you, the protagonist. They're going to need to get into this root system and go up the stalk with the protagonist in order to get back up to the main world. That's basically what I want to try to convince you of today. Okay, so let's take a look at Shawshank Redemption. All right, so Andy Dufresne goes through the rabbit hole, becomes a new fish, becomes a fish out of water, into this world of the prison. Now, the world of the prison is characterized by what? Lack of hope. That's the main theme in Shawshank Redemption, is that there is no hope. And there's even points where the Morgan Freeman character Red says that hope is a dangerous thing. And so it's playing with this knife edge, you might say, of too much hope and you're going to piss off the wrong elements down here and you're going to get eaten, or you're going to start to eat someone else.
I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living, or get busy dying.
Are you going to get eaten and decay and die, or are you going to start to eat the multiplicity around you and grow? All right, so what I want to look at now is a scene from Shawshank Redemption that I think will sort of illustrate this sense of what he's doing is he's going down there to rescue something or someone. So let's take a look at that now.
Chess. And there's a game of kings.
What?
Civilized, strategic. Well, maybe you let me teach you someday. I've been thinking of getting a board together. I want to carve the pieces myself. One side in alabaster, the opposing side in soapstone. What do you think? Pickings are pretty slim in the yard. Pebbles, mostly.
got one. Look.
Hey, Wood, that isn't soapstone. That ain't alabaster either.
Well, what the hell is it then?
Oh, horse shit. Petrified.
Jesus. Oh, damn.
And by the week Andy was due back, we had enough rock saved up to keep him busy till rapture.
Pleased to see you reading this. Any favorite passages?
Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh.
I'm the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life.
John chapter 8, verse 12.
Man should have a skill.
Want to explain this?
It's called a rock blanket for shaping and polishing rocks. A little hobby of mine.
It's pretty clean. Some contraband here, but nothing to get in a twist over.
I almost forgot. I'd hate to deprive you of this. Salvation lies within.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, very interesting. So he starts out talking about chess, right? And then he says, I want to get a chessboard together, and I want to take all of the multiplicity, all of the little rock, soapstone, and alabaster, and I want to carve them into something higher. So there's this idea that symbolically, he's taking the multiplicity and he's turning it into something that really comes from down here and he's bringing it up to here. So he's essentially doing what the root does in the tree, which is take those nutrients, those raw materials, and turn them into something that is organized and beautiful and belongs in the real world, in the upper world. So you could see, you could say that each one of these prisoners that he's gone down to save, they're like the unpolished rocks, and his little rock blanket and his carving is polishing up them. And you see this in the movie when he starts to form the library, he starts to educate them, he introduces them to higher culture, introduces them to music. He's basically taking the shit, the one guy finds the horse apple, which is basically just horse shit, and turns them into fine chess pieces, you might say. And they're learning the difference. They're learning, okay, well, that's shit, and this is soapstone, right? So that's what you need to know. You need to know how to discern between that which is nutritious and good for you and beneficial for you, or has the potential that you can use to grow into a higher being, a higher self, a higher existence, and that which is waste and just belongs down there. Okay, so that's the main thing. So we want to think of these characters as being planted like seeds in the soil, and now what goes on down there. All right, so now we start to get into the realm of discernment, okay? And we start to see, all right, now in the frustration stage, remember the dream stage is things are kind of magical, things kind of work out, the protagonist often has certain special skills that they bring to this other world that they can utilize. Marty McFly knows the future, and Neo has some kind of a magical calling where he can perform miracles. Andy Dufresne can perform miracles because he knows finance. He can help the guards with their taxes. So there's a certain privilege that this savior figure has. But what happens is, as they start to have success, the antagonists are now going to push back. So let's take a look at a scene from The Matrix to see what happens when the bad actors down there in the underworld start to take notice.
Hey, you want a drink? I know what you're thinking. Because right now I'm thinking the same thing. Why, oh why, didn't I take the blue pill? Good shit, huh? Dozer makes it. It's good for two things. Degreasing engines and killing brain cells. Jesus. So you're here to save the world. What do you say to something like that?
Thanks for the drink.
Sweet dreams.
Do we have a deal, Mr. Reagan?
You know, I know this steak doesn't exist. The Matrix is telling my brain that it is juicy and delicious. You know what I realize? Ignorance is bliss.
Then we have a deal.
I don't want to remember nothing. Nothing. You know, someone important.
Whatever you want, Mr. Reagan.
Aha. Okay, so now we have the traitor and the bully. These are now the Nephris characters within the underworld. Edmund here, of course, is connected to Lucy, but he is the bully in the real world. You know, he starts out as a bully, kind of similar to Biff in Back to the Future. But notice the two deals with the devil that we have here. We've got Edmund's deal with the devil, which is all the Turkish delight that you could possibly eat, and then you've got Cypher's deal with the devil, which is all of the steak that you can eat. But so what is going on with these deals? Both of them are involving remaining in the underworld, remaining in multiplicity, remaining in uselessness, you might say. Just pleasure and uselessness, kind of like the clip that I showed in the last video of the parents of in Spirited Away, eating and eating until they turned into pigs. It's this idea of down there in the soil, you've got potential, you do not have actualization of the potential. There's this force that wants to keep you in pure potential.
Electricity than a 120-volt battery and over 25,000 BTUs of body heat. The machines had found all the energy they would ever need under control in order to change a human being into this.
You're just providing what the higher being needs. You're not growing into your own identity. You're actually just helping whoever it is that's above you. You can think of it that way. Okay, so let's deal with the antagonist here, all right? Now, let's just take a look at, you've got the Warden, Shawshank Redemption. You've got the White Witch in Chronicles of Narnia. And you've got the queen, the two queens, basically, of queens of the underworld in Spirited Away and in Alice in Wonderland. And then you've got Agent Smith here in The Matrix. Now, one thing that you're going to notice about all of these, they are all accusers, and it's going to build up in this plot type. The final act, the final thrilling escape is going to take on the character of a trial. There's a trial that needs to take place in order for that person to be worthy to leave the underworld. You could think of it that way. And so why does the warden quote scripture all of the time? Why is the warden such a legalist? Well, it's the traditional role of the devil in these stories. The devil is the accuser. You can go all through medieval and early Christian art, and you're going to find this motif of the devil eating the souls. And where does that come from? It comes from the book of Genesis, when the serpent is getting cursed. Remember, Adam is told, from dust you are, and to dust you shall return. So when you die, you turn into dust. And then what does the snake do? Eats the dust. You will be cursed to eat the dust. So the role in this post-cursed world of the serpent or of the devil or of Satan or whatever name you want to give is the one who eats the dead. Okay, so remember the metaphor of eating, the organic metaphor. When you go down there, you're either going to get eaten by something else. Think of, you put a seed in the soil, and it's either going to sprout and grow up by eating all of the soil around it, or the soil's going to eat it and it's going to decompose into nothing. And so this idea is that the mouth of hell, this is in traditional Christian iconography, the mouth of hell is actually the mouth of the serpent, who is Satan. So you'll find Satan personified this way, as kind of a creature with horns or whatnot, or as a serpent this way. So very interesting. And so what is going on here in this iconography? You're seeing Christ going down and saving these souls from going into that mouth. Okay, so that's essentially what Andy Dufresne is doing. What is the mouth in the mouth of hell, you might say, in Shawshank Redemption? It's hopelessness, and he's going down to provide hope. Okay, that's the key. See, in this image, we've got I think that's Mary. I'm actually not sure what this creature represents, but there's the souls there, locked, and they need to be let out. Okay, so there, and then you can see this is on the front of a church. The same thing, the idea of this creature eating these souls. Okay, so I think that's what's going on here. Here's some closer detail of it. Very interesting, very interesting. So you're either going to keep going down into even less identity, or you're gonna make it all the way up. And how this is kind of played out is in the notion of a name. As you start to lose your identity, as you start to die, what happens to you? In some cases, the characters are renamed, or the devil character wants to rename them according to what they want to name them, or they just forget their name altogether. This is in Spirited Away.
Sign your name away, and I'll put you to work. If I hear one little complaint out of you, you'll be joining your parents in the pig pen. Are you done yet? So, your name's Chihiro. What a pretty name. And it belongs to me now. From now on, your name is Sen.
Yes, ma'am.
Where the animal character, the boy that she meets along the way, says, the reason why I'm stuck down here is because I can't remember my name. And she's the one who has to try to figure out what his name is. And once she does, what happens? He gets freed.
Haku, listen. I just remembered something from a long time ago. I think it may help you. It finally came back to me. The river's name was the Kohaku River. I think that was you. And your real name is Kohaku River.
You did it, Chihiro. I remember. I was the spirit of the Kohaku River.
Okay. So, the accuser. Very interesting. The role of the accuser. Let's first... let's take a look at the Matrix and how this plays out in Agent Smith.
Like the dinosaur. Look out that window. You had your time. I'd like to share a revelation that I've had. It came to me when I tried to classify your species. Every mammal on this planet instinctively develops a natural equilibrium with the surrounding environment, but you humans do not. You move to an area and you multiply till every natural resource is consumed. A virus. Human beings are a disease. plague, and we are the cure. I hate this place. It's the smell. If there is such a thing. I can taste your stink. It's repulsive, isn't it?
Okay, very interesting. So he feels repulsed by the stench of humanity, and he characterizes it as a virus, right? So this is the accusatory nature. Basically, I think what's going on is that that your antagonist is basically saying remain down in that underworld. Don't sprout up and become your own thing. Just remain in the world of death and decay. That's kind of the accuser. And there's a sense that the accuser is not just doing what they have their own power to do, but they're appealing to the cosmic forces. They're appealing to God, appealing to Yahweh, and saying, this person deserves to be down there in the underworld. This person does not deserve to live. This is a virus. This is a selfish person. This is, et cetera, et cetera. And so these devil characters, you might say, these antagonists, they still work within the system of law and order, of ultimate justice, right? And so the only way that they can kind of have their way is to appeal to the actual sin or the actual fault or the actual unworthiness or undeservedness of these protagonist characters. So now let's take a look at how they do it in Shawshank Redemption.
I say to him, yeah, Elmo, who'd you kill?
I got me this job one time, bussing tables at a country club. So I pick out this guy and do his place. He wakes up, so I killed him. Him and this tasty bitch he was with. Golf pro, but she's married to some other guy. And he's the one they pinned it on.
I have to say, that's the most amazing story I ever heard. Well, it's obvious this fellow, Williams, he hears your tale of woe and quite naturally wants to cheer you up. He's not surprising he wouldn't know what a state he put you in. You think he'd just fall to his knees and cry, yes, I did it, I confess. Oh, and by the way, add a life term to my sentence.
It's a chance, isn't it? How can you be so obtuse?
Son, you're forgetting yourself.
The country club will have his old time cards.
This meeting is over.
Sir, if I were to ever get out, I would never mention what goes on in here. I'd be just as indictable as you for laundering that money.
Don't you ever mention money to me again, you sorry son of a bitch. Solitary, a month.
Yes, sir.
It's my life! Don't you understand? It's my life!
Get him out! Get him out!
This is my life. Can't you understand that? Interesting. Okay, so the mouth of hell, lack of hope. What happens to Andy Dufresne at the end of that scene? He gets thrown in the hole. He gets thrown in the dungeon, the darkness. He's that close from death. And so then the next thing that happens, we're into the nightmare stage. Remember, the dream stage is where things are working well. He's educating people. He is polishing up rocks. He is introducing the people to music. Things are going well. Things are going well. He starts to get a little pushback from the warden, from the sisters, the bullies in that arena, in the frustration stage. And then once you get to the nightmare stage, though, now you're dealing with this. You are dealing with that mouth of hell. The snake that eats the dead. He's in danger of losing his life. That's why he's screaming, "This is my life. This is my life." And what is losing his life? It's losing hope. Remember, there's a part where Red says hope is a dangerous thing in a prison like this. So let's watch the scene now where Andy, it's really, I think, the pivotal scene in the movie where he's totally now realizing that he's got no hope, because the warden is the only one that would be able to help him, and he's obviously not willing to do so. So let's take a look at that scene right now.
My wife used to say I'm a hard man to know. Like a closed book. God, I loved her. I just didn't know how to show it, that's all. I killed her, Red. I didn't pull the trigger. I drove her away. And that's why she died, because of me. The way I am.
That don't make you a murderer. Bad husband, maybe. Feel bad about it if you want to, but you didn't pull the trigger.
No, I didn't. And I wound up in here. I was in the path of the tornado. I just didn't expect that the storm would last as long as it has. You think you'll ever get out of here?
Yeah.
I'll tell you where I'd go. Zihuatanejo. It's in Mexico. Open up a little hotel right on the beach. Take my guests out. Charter fishing.
Zihuatanejo. Pacific Ocean? Shit. About to scare me to death, something that big.
Not me.
I don't think you ought to be doing this to yourself, Andy. This is just shitty pipe dreams.
Yeah, right. That's the way it is. It's down there and I'm in here. I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living, or get busy dying. Promise me, Red. If you ever get out, find that spot. At the base of that wall, you'll find a rock that has no earthly business in a Maine hayfield. A piece of black, volcanic glass. There's something buried under it I want you to have.
It's so good. That's probably one of the better scenes in cinema history, I think. Get busy living or get busy dying?
Get busy living or get busy dying. That's goddamn right.
That's the choice that these protagonists have in the underworld. You're either going to start sprouting up or you're going to get decomposed down into dust.
I hope I can make it across the border. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope.
And that's the choice. Okay, now what we know, having seen the movie, is this is when he decides that he's going to use his escape plan and he's going to escape. But that moment, oh my God, that moment with Morgan Freeman, with Red, that is tantamount to the thief on the cross moment, where the Savior figure says, truly, I will be with you in paradise. Zihuatanejo is heaven. So, the accuser, what is it that he does? What is the tactic of the accuser? Well, I think what it is that he wants the protagonist and all the people underneath him to basically be the power for whatever his goals are. So Andy is running this machine of embezzlement for him, and he doesn't want him to stop. And so he needs to keep him there. But notice again, Andy comes to this realization, you know what, Red? I killed my wife because I'm a sinner, basically, is what he was saying. And so this sort of shows that, you know, these Christ figure resonances, he doesn't have all of the elements of the Christ figure. He is a sinner in this. And oftentimes the protagonists do have flaws in this plot type. But it's the accusations of the accuser that brings him to this realization of losing hope. Losing hope, saying, you know what, I'm never going to get out of here, and maybe I deserve it. Maybe I deserve it because I'm the one that killed my wife by neglecting her. Something like that, he says. So these tactics, the tactics of the accuser do work, but it's interesting because it drives the person to what you might call genuine repentance, right? That moment, that's a turning point in Andy Dufresne's story. It's the moment where he repents, and then the moment where he makes his decision to move towards heaven, you might say, rather than sinking down into the hopelessness that is basically death. Oh, it's so fascinating to me, you know. The accuser, the devil. What's the purpose for this figure to exist in the world, you know? Okay, so now let's take a look at Chronicles of Narnia.
Where are the humans headed?
Beaver said something about the stone table, and that Aslan had an army there.
Thank you, Edmund, teacher. Got to see some honesty before he dies.
No!
Think about whose side you're on, Edmund. Mine? Or theirs? You have a traitor in your midst, Aslan. Have you forgotten the laws upon which Narnia was built?
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch.
Then you'll remember well that every traitor belongs to me.
Try and take him then.
Aslan knows that unless I have blood as the law demands, all of Narnia will be overturned and perish in fire and water. That boy will die on the stone table.
Very interesting. So the accuser and the tempter, or you might say the tempter and the accuser, you know, so that's kind of the tactic here, is that the temptation comes first, and then when you fall for the temptation, as Edmund did with the betraying of his siblings and the Turkish delight and the promises of kingship and all that, then all of a sudden the trap is set, and the antagonist, the devil character, uses that person's own failings to trap them in to the underworld. So there's a sense that there's this Nephris game going on of temptation, and if you fall for the temptation, then they have you. And they have you not because they're forcing you themselves, but it's actually the moral good of the universe that's forcing you down, right? So it's actually Edmund's own mistake for why she has now a claim to him. It's actually Andy Dufresne's own mistake for why he thinks that there's a sense that he maybe belongs in Shawshank. Maybe there's something to the speech that Agent Smith gives about humanity. Maybe there is a corruption to the human race, right? So there's this kind of weird thing going on where you've got these elements of truth within the accusation, but then you've got this kind of trap that's sprung, or this game that's played, which is designed to trap the person into death so that they will disintegrate and just go down into the earth. Okay, so now let's just look at this at a final example, and that's going to be the other queen of the underworld in one of these great movies, is Spirited Away.
Don't say that! Anyone can see you're a lazy, spoiled crybaby and you have no manners. Get out. I've got all the lazy bums I need. Maybe a give you the most difficult job I've got and work you until you breathe your very last breath.
So you see the parallel here. They're always accusing the protagonist. And in this case, she, again, there is some truth to what she's saying. She says that her parents were gobbling up the food that was meant for the spirits in this weird mythical bathhouse that they're in, and that they deserve to be turned into pigs. And then she says, you are lazy, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So you see this accusation character. All right, so that's the nature of the accuser, the tempter, the accuser. And we're going to see these characters come back in the final stage in the form of a trial, is what we're going to see. So basically, we've made it now all the way up through the frustration stage and into the nightmare stage. And the nightmare stage is where the hero is facing the full force of antagonism, and you could say this is also where the trial for whether or not they're worthy to exit the underworld will take place. So it's so interesting. I mean, I just kept looking at these plots and looking at these plots and looking at these plots, and then I just started to notice, my gosh, there's a trial at the end of every one of these. So my sense is that the final act of this plot type, the nightmare stage, or I'm sorry, the nightmare stage leading into the thrilling escape, has to do with the book of John in the Gospels. There's the trial of Christ at the end of the book, and there's this flip that happens, and the flip is that the person that is putting the trial on, in the case of the Gospel of John, it's a combination of Pontius Pilate and the Sanhedrin. And then there's a flip that happens, and all of a sudden you realize that they're the ones being put on trial. It's their world that's being put on trial in some sense. It's the whole Roman Empire that's being put on trial. It's the whole Sanhedrin system, the system of religious hypocrisy that is put on trial. Okay. And so that's going to be the next thing that we look at. So I think I'm going to end the video for today. And then we're going to do a part 4, Voyage and Return part 4, and that's going to be the final one. And it's going to be about this final trial, Wizard of Oz, Kafka's The Trial, Orson Welles' film, Spirited Away, Shawshank, and Alice in Wonderland. So check back for that next time. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment, and I'm really appreciating all of the support that I'm getting with this. So I'll see you next time.